Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second masterclass with a role model series that Women4Cyber has launched. We are very happy about this series, especially given the success of the first episode last month in November. So before starting, a few words about Women4Cyber. We are an initiative launched to help fill the gap of cybersecurity professionals in Europe. One of the first steps is to boost the participation of girls and women in cybersecurity professions, encouraging the skilling, upskilling, and reskilling, just targeting girls in universities, junior professionals starting their careers, and even senior professionals looking for a career reorientation. As our objective and mission are comprehensive, so our actions and activities covering a wide range, going from community building, awareness, encouraging companies to implement trainings and courses, and also reaching out to the highest political level, which encompasses both national administrations, regional administrations, but also the European institutions. Which are actually partners of our initiative. Our activities are supported by the Women4Cyber Foundation, which has a decision-making body, and the Women4Cyber Council, that is an ad hoc advisory body providing strategic recommendations to the decision-making body on the activities of the foundation. This leads me to introduce you to Anett Mádi-Nátor, who is the president of the Women4Cyber Foundation, and a great supporter and advocate for a gender-neutral cybersecurity field. She has more than a decade of experience in strategic and administrative layers of information security and cyber defense, both as a private sector subject matter expert and as a government representative. Anett is also Vice President for Operations and Strategic Business Development at Cyber Services PLC, which is a Hungarian strategic and technical cybersecurity company. Before giving the floor to Anett, I'd like to highlight a few small rules to ensure that this masterclass goes as smoothly as possible. So first of all, please make sure that you are muted to avoid any background noises. And once Anett is done with her initial comments, we will open a Q&A session. If you have questions, please raise your hand through the available button. And wait until I invite you to speak, and then you can unmute yourself. Also, don't hesitate to use the chat as well if you are a little bit more shy, but we really encourage to have a live exchange. This is the whole point of this masterclass. So on this topic, I am now wishing you all a nice session, and Anett, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nina. First of all, welcome everyone, and I'm really grateful that you allocate your time for joining this masterclass at this specially packed time of the year. I know that there are only a couple of days remaining till Christmas, so everyone's time is sort of very, very tight. Nevertheless, we wanted to have a masterclass as a year closing masterclass, and also as a nice and little present to the community. Additionally, though this masterclass series is quite new, so we don't really have strong traditions, what we are aiming for on a long term and also during this special occasion of today is to create an atmosphere and also to support the community with some very, very relaxed, free-flowing and absolutely informal discussion event. Therefore, to fill this purpose, I didn't make a presentation, so I didn't prepare a presentation. I will do a small intervention or short intervention, I would say, and then I'm really looking for listening to your reactions and understanding how you see this. So that's it. And a couple of weeks ago, when we decided on having this masterclass, we were thinking about what to make as a central topic of the discussions, and we decided on discussing the greatest misconceptions of cyber. That actually comes from an internal discussion. And that is an overarching, let's say, line or sort of activity area for us in the initiative as well, because what we see, and that was also one of the let's say, very first aims to establish this initiative, that there are so great misconceptions related to cybersecurity, just as large or great misconceptions on how women can enter the field of cybersecurity. And additionally, there are so great, let's say, such great misconceptions about how HR perceives cybersecurity that we feel that we have to talk about it. And for that, we thought that giving you a little bit of insight into my personal career line or career development may be a little bit of, I wouldn't even say an eye-opener, but perhaps a bunch of trigger for thoughts and for discussion. So to start with, I will speak about my personal career line, just a little bit, and then I will formulate my opinion on the 5+1 greatest misconceptions that I have identified lately related to cybersecurity in general. So Nina was kindly introducing me a couple of minutes ago, but there are some more aspects she didn't elaborate. The point is, what I always start with, because I think it's extremely important, that I do not have a STEM background, which means I do not have any kind of engineering degree, I do not have any kind of IT degree. And to move further, I don't even have any kind of cybersecurity degree, though, to be honest, I am planning to start my PhD on a special area which is related to cybersecurity a little bit. It's actually political science, and within that, security policy from I believe September in 2021. So, and that leads to the next comment, next two comments on my personal career line. Though I could manage navigating quite well in the cybersecurity industry for approximately 15 years. Now I feel the sort of internal drive to gain a degree on this somehow. On the other hand, it's not a specific need, so it's not because I have to do that. It's purely because I worked so much on the field in the past 15 years that now I feel that I need to do something else. So it's like a little bit of diverting from leading a company from operational perspective and from business development. Okay, so I don't have a STEM background. I'm not an expert in computers, and I'm not an expert on IT integration and anything like that. Originally, I'm a historian, and I also have a degree in historical comparative linguistics in English. So it's not even my mother tongue. I also attended university classes on psychology, but it was a theoretical version because I didn't do my field practice. That went on for 4 years, and I also have a proper degree in teaching, so I am enabled to teach primary and secondary school students based on the Hungarian regulations, which means that I also teach university and college students. So that's it basically. So my original, let's say, interest was very strongly related to security policy and political science in general, but I also wanted to have a sort of, global view, not only the one that is limited to my home country and to my own language. And when I started working very early in my 20s, completely accidentally, I got contracted by a company who was a service provider for the Hungarian military. And so immediately I could participate in training those troops who were prepared to fill NATO positions and special peacekeeping and other military mission positions, mission-related positions. And I did that for a couple of years, which was excellent for me to do something, and that is also very important, at least for myself. But I also think that it's a useful knowledge, and to build such a skill is a useful thing or useful skill for everybody else who has a kind of theoretical degree. Is that I could transfer my more theoretical university-based or research-based knowledge to something practical. So I sort of combined my university experience with something else that is very close to reality and that is practical for other people, useful for other people. I did that for a couple of years, as I mentioned, and then again, absolutely unintentionally, so it came by chance, I got basically contacted by then perhaps the most significant IT and IT security company in Hungary to start assisting them on international project development and communication, international communication issues. That was in 2005. And I soon realized, and that was also a significant turning point in my career, that at that special IT company, I was surrounded by really intense brains. So I was surrounded by people whose way of thinking was really impressive. And I got immediately caught by the atmosphere, to be honest. And as months passed by, I had the feeling that I have to be involved in what they are doing deeper and deeper. And this is how I started entering the field of cybersecurity. So it wasn't by my own intention, it wasn't planned, and I didn't seek the opportunity for that. But it happened, okay? And I spent 5 years in this very inspiring environment. I would say it was really inspiring. And that was also the time when also nation states in Europe, or European, I wouldn't say member states because some countries were not EU members that time, so EU has grown since then. But some European nation states and also some significant commercial or industry service providers started realizing this new field of industry that we now call cybersecurity. Also on the military side, the first new organizations got set up or got formulated, and these we call the birth of the defense, cyber defense industry. So from a civilian and consumer perspective, we usually mention cybersecurity, but in the military, it comes like cyber defense. Okay, and also the national administrations started realizing that cybersecurity is a thing, and as such, Hungary, within its own national administration, started creating its own cybersecurity substructure. So, and at the very beginning of 2021, in Hungary, within the frames, actually within the frames of the National Security Authority, the Cyber Defense Management Authority of the country was created. And surprise, not such a big surprise, that unit, which I assisted for 5 years, and that used to belong to that significant Hungarian IT security company, was actually moved in one to the National Security Authority, Cyber Defense Management Authority. So this is how actually I became the administrative head of CDMA NSA Hungary at the very beginning of 2011. Many things happened really fast after that. A couple of months later, really literally weeks later, I found myself participating and representing my country in high-level NATO committees and working groups related to cyber defense. And I did the same for EU Information Assurance Unit. And that was really the time when all nation states formulated, built up, and built further their own national security-related cybersecurity and cyber defense substructures. How these units were built up at that time, and then I come back to my original statement that I have to emphasize that I do not have a STEM background. Many of my then colleagues did not have a STEM background either. And now I will be really, really realistic and also open. If you have a look at my face, you see that I'm way over 40 years, okay? Actually, I will be 46 in a month, which means that when I had my university degree, there was no cybersecurity university education available in Europe. So us, the ones who now lead cybersecurity in C-suite, in C positions like CEO, COO, strategic business development leads, and so on and so forth, we didn't really have the chance to gain a degree in cybersecurity because there were no degrees in cybersecurity available at that time. So from my perspective, my personal perspective, the debate that we are having right now in many platforms and in many discussion environments, whether cybersecurity experts need to have a STEM background or not, is basically a little bit an out of scope kind of discussion. Because there are many people, many experts, really talented, really experienced, super senior experts who could not gain such a degree. On the other hand, they have an enormous footprint in the cybersecurity industry, no matter which side you are viewing, no matter whether you see it from consumer perspective, from service provider perspective, from civilian administration perspective, from defense perspective, or anyhow. We didn't have the chance for that. Actually, this leads back to my earlier comment that now I have the urge to gain a degree, but now based on my original degrees, I can only opt for a PhD, which I will. But building a career on cybersecurity, that time when we started was completely different. Now, for the young, for the I don't know how many generations after us, it's a totally different issue. Still, I have to, I wouldn't say I have to, I must emphasize that having a STEM background may only be important on technical fields, but not on operational and way not on strategic positions. Okay, but this is, yeah, we can call it one of the 5 greatest misconceptions of cybersecurity, but we can come back to it a bit later. Right, so back to my career. I had the chance to lead from administrative perspective and also from a little bit of knowledge transfer issues to lead the CDMA NSA Hungary for 5 years approximately. And then as we had, let's say, large reconstruction within the national cybersecurity substructure, many of us, tens or even 100 cybersecurity experts had to leave the government, and we were sort of encouraged to formulate commercial companies so that the substructure could be supported from outside as well. So we did. That was the time when with some of my previous colleagues, we started this company that we call Cyber Services, and I've been here since then. And I also believe that, as far as I know, many of you come from the commercial, let's say, areas. So I'm not going to elaborate on how to do business development in cybersecurity. Just a technical remark to Nina and Saskia. There are some participants of the workshop or masterclass who can't see me, and some of them may not be able to hear me. Anyway, I will move on. I trust you can sort this technical issue out. So the point is that so fast forward, a couple of years passed, and approximately at around 2017, 2018, the political atmosphere got mature enough, let's say, to grab this issue, cybersecurity in general, and to start working with it from, let's say, a more professional perspective, which means from our understanding and from our activities perspective, that soon came the time that apart from formulating the NIS directive, formulating the GDPR, and formulating the necessary cybersecurity strategy of Europe, we could also start dealing with more practical issues like examining or researching how the cybersecurity employee market can serve the purpose of this booming digitalization and all the security issues that come with it. And this leads us to launching the original idea and the time when we had the first discussions of formulating Women for Cyber initiative, which was approximately 2 years ago. And that was also the time when the political climate got mature enough so that the issue of gender neutrality related to cybersecurity got a little bit of focus. And then we started, when I say we, I also mean the European Cybersecurity Organization. We started working together very closely and very intensively with the European Commission on how to grab this issue, in a sense that that we really wanted to find the way how we could utilize this political support and how we could turn this to the benefit of the European community. So we formulated the initiative, and we also set up a very strong administrative support behind that, and also a kind of financial basis for that. And so for a year by now, I can say we have an up and running initiative, a foundation behind that, a very strong political support, and strong every day-to-day collaboration with the most significant European institutions who have any kind of voice and any kind of activity in the cybersecurity field. And so one of the let's say practical deliverables that this initiative brings you, participants of this masterclass series, is a role modeling campaign. The other one is the masterclass campaign. From next year on, we will launch a newly formulated mentorship program. And one of our longer term plans is to formulate the European Cybersecurity Academy for women. Why we are doing that? Two reasons. There are two reasons behind, perhaps 2 + 1, and that also leads us to the misconceptions that I would like to highlight. Is that there is such a strong potential in Europe that is not utilized properly in the format, or let's say in women not having a significant voice in cybersecurity industry in general, that we would like to definitely utilize. We would like to create a situation which means a long-term improvement in this situation. And to be really frank and straightforward, we think that European digital market, let's say, and the European cybersecurity market misses a lot if we don't include women and we don't help women gaining leadership position in this industry, because we are able to deliver. So that's the intro, and then it's time to discuss the misconceptions. Okay, I hope you are ready for that. Basically, I believe my most favorite misconception is cybersecurity, and I also think it's extremely funny. It's hilarious, actually, from my perspective, is that hackers wear hoodies and live on pizza Coke combo at all times. Right, I have to tell you that it's absolutely untrue. Okay, cyber services, just as any other cybersecurity service provider company, is how to put it nicely, is a company that has a proper office space. Okay, if it's not COVID, we come to the office in the morning and we leave the office in the evening or at night, depending on how much work we have. There are mostly senior colleagues around, senior at age and at experience. We usually have children, a lot. We don't wear hoodies, but the majority of my colleagues wear suits and nice shirts, so they have a proper working attire. And hardly any one of them eats pizza on a regular basis. We usually buy a bottle of Coke like 2 times per year just to put it in the fridge, and then it takes weeks while everyone makes it, like not usable anymore, let's say. So we usually throw that away because no one drinks it. And more people do sports on a regular basis, and any of them actually run, than the ones who do not. So I have to tell you that we are not vampires. We live in the daylight, and we are very, very close to normal people. Okay? For me personally, it's a regular activity that I get up at 5:20 in the morning, pull myself together. I'm not a morning person, so it's really a pain. At 30:30, my kids get up. I have them preparing for school, and at 7:20 in the morning, we leave the house, and I drive them to school. They attend school. I come in the office. I work, and after 5, I drive home and pick, like, the daily grocery up and everything like that. So I'm a normal person, and it's very far from the image that you see and that you understand from a cybersecurity C-suite person if you, let's say, gain your information solely from social media, including LinkedIn. Did I mention no one wears hoodies in the office? Hope I did. Not even now when we have the COVID, actually. Okay. The second greatest misconception, I already elaborated. I meant to mention at this point that one can only enter cyber with STEM background. Okay, now let me come back to this topic and let me highlight a very interesting perspective related to this. If you browse the internet and social media, you can soon realize that my company has a significant footprint in the Far East. We have booming business lines in Hong Kong, Singapore, and a little bit in China, but we concentrate more on Singapore nowadays. Anyway, there, education is a little bit different from what you can gain in Europe. So there, having a STEM background is much more a significant criterion if someone wants to enter the cybersecurity field. But even there, this one gets only applied on a compulsory basis when someone wants to join the military and so wants to work in cyber defense. But for commercial companies, it's basically not a prerequisite. I already explained my views on it, so I'm not elaborating it any further. Greatest misconception number 3. Women have nothing to do with cyber, as it is like engineering or surgery, which means you practically are not allowed to be a it's a parallel thought. I just wanted to give a use case for that, or a very short example, that there are some countries where you cannot be a surgeon, a doctor, a medical doctor, if you are a woman, because you are really not advised to enter operation rooms, and people think that women are not capable physically and mentally to cope with the challenges of that profession. Or I could even mention the issue of being a fireman, for example. In Hungary, it's very difficult for a woman to be a fireman because it's not allowed, and also some significant other areas in law enforcement are not open for women. And many people think the same should apply to cybersecurity. And this is where our initiative comes in the picture. We believe that this is very strongly based on those misconceptions which relate to the men-driven societal misconceptions, which mostly come from engineering traditionally. This is one that Women for Cyber Initiative wants to help leaving behind. Misconception number 4, digitalization equals to cyber. Now, I am sure many of you have your thoughts about it. And this is not that much related to the HR issues, whether to hire a woman or a man to a position or not, but it much rather leads to understanding how cybersecurity industry works in Europe and also in any other parts of the world or of the globe. And it relates to how C-suite people or business decision makers understand cybersecurity. For those who are not cybersecurity experts, still need to make either financial or an investment or any kind of operational decision on cybersecurity, as cybersecurity is a new industry segment, let's say, it's very difficult to understand what the difference is between this one and usual IT infrastructure management, or even digitalization in general. And as I said, this is not that much related to our initiative. It's a general misconception. And in this respect, I sometimes see the view and also the actions of the European let's say, decision makers a little bit misleading as well. So I hope to have this clarified later. I believe when cybersecurity in general will become, or when it becomes much more mature, so in a couple of decades, it will be much more obvious for decision makers that there is a strong difference between providing digital services and providing the security of digital services. But I am also keen to hear your views on this when we come to the discussion part of the masterclass, this particular masterclass. Okay. Misconception number 5. You can solve all problems with technical solutions, hardware and software. So if you purchase the right bunch of devices, you are done. Quite sadly, this is not the case. And this is where well-prepared junior and senior cybersecurity experts come in the picture. Because no matter how many devices you buy and how many software and hardware devices you build together to create your boundary protection and to enhance your digital security and so on and so forth, for many decades coming, as we see based on the development of the technology, still it will be the human who will be the most important when it comes to making strategic decisions and also when it comes to governing over technology. Misconception 5+1. You cannot do it alone. I mean, the misconception is that you can do it alone. And my view is that no, you cannot. And that leads also the creation of the initiative, Women for Cyber Initiative. What we do here and what always has to be kept in mind or should be kept in mind is that cybersecurity is a team effort. Moreover, it has to be a team effort when that has to be a mixed team effort, let's say, because it requires so diverse skill sets that cannot be physically and mentally cannot be provided by one single person. Moreover, I am sure that it cannot be provided by teams which are solely of men. I have always worked, in the past 15 years, I have always worked in teams which were mixed of men and women, almost of equal proportions. Men have certain digital skills, technical skills, their own attitudes, which are absolutely agreeable, supportable, and valuable. On the other hand, when it comes to coordination, when it comes to the need to utilize different analysis skills, different operational skills, and different strategic decision-making skills and abilities, there should be women involved so that a more complex view, a more complex skill set could be applied, because it cannot be otherwise. This is the most natural and most efficient way of approaching cybersecurity issues that needs to be solved. Just think about your everyday environment. It's quite unlikely that within your everyday lives you get into situations where there are solely men involved, or on the other hand, where there are solely women are involved. It is an unnatural situation. Why should it apply to cybersecurity? So let me finish my, let's say, intervention with this question. I hope I generated some thoughts, and I'm really looking forward to your questions. And I will do my best to answer these if I can.
Thank you so much, Anett, for this great presentation. It was really amazing to your background, where you're coming from, and how you ended in cybersecurity. It's such an amazing path, and inspiring as well, I'm sure. Then please, those of you who are following this masterclass, don't hesitate to come forward with your comments and questions, as Anett mentioned, and we will give you the floor. To just give you the time to maybe gather your thoughts, a first question from my side. Anett, so you said that somehow, in a way, women are complementary to men when in the approach to cybersecurity, as they bring a different mindset. This definitely reminds me of the podcast that you did for the European Commission a year ago. And I encourage people to go and listen to that podcast, because it was really interesting as well, and it's available on our website. But that means that, back to this complementarity, that means that we need to open up the mentalities, as there are still so many unfortunately males out there in the cybersecurity field who think that cybersecurity belongs to men and can only be understood by men. What would be your recommendation, your suggestion about showing that it's a false well, it's a misconception, it's a false assessment, and how could we change this?
I think it's a difficult question. So there may be several approaches, and I think it depends on who the target audience is, or who the target audiences are, let's say. What you can do as a good start when you need to formulate an argument on this is that just pick the 10 most significant European or global cybersecurity companies and give their employer statistics, like how many men and how many women are employed by them for cybersecurity service delivery. Because, for example, at my company, and I have to say that we are really niche, and we provide services for national security, for governments, for critical infrastructure, for critical information infrastructure as well. And we support nuclear industry very strongly with our services, which is not a typically, like, you know, pink unicorn, like very female oriented business in general. Nevertheless, more than 40% of our employees are women. And actually the division, the cyber threat intelligence division, is led by a woman, a young woman. Who is, I believe, one of the most talented cybersecurity, cyber threat intelligence analysts whom I have ever met, which is a woman. So, convincing someone that this is a misconception maybe well based on statistics, okay? Because usually numbers, when you illustrate something with numbers and figures, that is a kind of like neutral and convincing issue. On the other hand, I believe if you can, let's say, go more personal and create personal connections and create the opportunity to generate a discussion, a real discussion on this topic, you as a woman with your own personality, with your own professional personality, let's say, solely or originally by the thing that you are there, with one sentence saying like you are a woman and you are still there in this discussion involved, you can be a very good and a solid evidence of the thing that this industry is not solely for men. Because if it were, you wouldn't be there. That's so simple. I think this misconception is just overcomplicating things. Obviously, men who are losing, who have the fear that they are losing their position, their leading position, would have fears anyhow.
Thank you, Anett. I'm reading about a success story on the chat. I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name. So please don't hesitate to intervene and share it with us live.
The question, you are meaning the question from Jana Putin? I don't see the name. From Jana?
Was there a question I missed?
There is a question in the chat. Reading. Yeah, the first, and we have a second from Carolina. I will start with Jana, okay? Could you please suggest, oops, one more. Could you please suggest, based on your experience, which is the best approach from where to start cybersecurity career with no experience? Yes, that's a very good question. I believe that may also be difficult, a little bit difficult to grab. But I usually have a very simple advice. If someone wants to enter cybersecurity in general with no experience, more particularly with no STEM background, a very nice area to enter the field is basically policy making. Cybersecurity policy making. Policy making gives a very broad overview of where the industry is heading to. Also brings a very good opportunity to actually get to know the basic definitions, the most frequent technical definitions, the most frequent operational issues, and so on and so forth. And on the other hand, when someone enters the policy making part, administrative level policy making part, they can very fast build up a professional network of related people, because policy making requires strong interactions with many other parties involved. So I would recommend that one. Or if someone limits this sort of urge to enter the cybersecurity industry solely to commercial entities like industry service providers, what may come easier is a kind of project manager or project assistant or project coordinator position, to opt for this, or to try to grab that, to fill that job vacancy if available, because that is also a kind of field that gives very fast a good overview of related activities. And within project management, let's say, one has the opportunity to build a nice and round career, also can have a very good professional relation building opportunity. So I hope I answered this question. And the second one from Carolina is it a misconception that you can travel and work anywhere in the world? Okay, thank you for the question. I love this. I wanted to have this because I travel a lot. Basically, when it's not COVID, I spend approximately 40% of my time abroad working. As a woman, there are hardly any limitations where you can work. As a cybersecurity expert, no matter which layer I'm mentioning, tactical, operational, / administrative or strategic. On the other hand, there are a few countries, usually Muslim fundamental countries. I could mention Indonesia, for example, where though you can work in the cybersecurity industry as a woman, or I could mention India, that you can work there as a cybersecurity expert as a woman, but due to the social, let's say, due to societal issues, and in case of Indonesia, due to societal and religious issues, above a certain level, let's say, men will not include you in strategic discussions and in decision-making discussions. On the other hand, I believe by origin, this has nothing to do with cybersecurity, because in those countries where you are not allowed or you are not accepted as a woman when it comes to discussions, strategic discussions or administrative discussions, you wouldn't be accepted anyhow, even if you were a librarian. But apart from really a handful of countries, I strongly believe that there are no limitations. And I can also prove this through my own career. I've been working internationally in cybersecurity and IT security in general in 2006. So to answer this question very shortly, it is a misconception indeed. Okay, next one.
Actually, I would really encourage people to come forward and speak on the screen. I think it would make the exchange more fluent, you know, and then allow you to directly interact with Anett instead of writing your questions in the chat. So don't be shy. This platform is the whole point, is to have an exchange, a live exchange.
We have a question from Carolina. How can you introduce new technologies for cybersecurity in Europe? Carolina, can you come forward?
Hi. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this space and for the whole experience that you just told us, like new perspectives for cybersecurity. I work in sales for cybersecurity products. So can you see me? Yeah. And we develop technologies. So like the experts and the people that they are physicists, they are chemists, they are like people like really in the field of IT. And can you see me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I think something's wrong with my computer because I have had a couple of issues. And my job is to bring this knowledge, which is extremely complicated. It is very, very interesting. I remember you saying that you were sharing rooms with people that had like super crazy, like very interesting minds and very different like life and everything. I usually have this all the time in my job. And I was curious about like, how would you have like another perspective of how like the new technologies are being introduced into Europe, because with a new area of like with cybersecurity right now, like as an industry, there are also new products, new technologies, new challenges. So how, maybe you have some experience in there, like how do you bring new knowledge, conceptions, technologies like into a digital society that is every single day even more digital? So yeah, I don't know if you understand my question.
I hope I do, and it's a very interesting question. On the other hand, it has nothing to do with the gender issues, right?
No. This is
it's about digitalization in general. Yeah, but that's completely fine. I also have to say that I have no explicit experience in selling products, because I have never did that. I have never done that, and I'm not planning to do that because I come from a completely different background, let's say. But in cybersecurity, I think it doesn't matter whether you need to sell a product or a service. So we are not even at that state of maturity in Europe and all over the globe that there needs to be a huge difference made between how to sell a product and how to sell a service. The thing is that this kind of convincing power, you know, human convincing power, you need to have as an inbuilt talent or something is really, really difficult, let's say. And also very long, what I wanted to say, but it's really a practical thing, and it may be interesting only for industry representatives, that for us, for example, selling a service or configuring a project, building up a project opportunity is at least of 15 months on average. So it's really slow, and my company, and let me go very personal, okay? When I say personal, I mean how the business development within my company works. We are an invested company, which means that we have a minority stakeholder in the background who is only interested or mostly interested in the financial productivity, let's say, of the company, which is quite fine. So that's the normal case, that's the usual case. Therefore, it's really an issue for them to be able to accept that business development in cybersecurity is much slower than, for example, in average retail, like selling clothes or selling vegetables, okay? Selling 1 kilogram of potatoes is like 5 minutes. I don't know how much time. So it's like really, really slow. It's like fast. It's very fast. It's like, you know, it's like spinning.
You see the product, you have it there, you buy it, you take it home.
Yeah. And you don't need to advertise it. You don't need.
It's so abstract and so complicated, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to create a story for that to be able to sell it, because it's like quite usual and quite normal that people need potatoes, so let's bring potatoes to the shops, and so they will buy it. But it's not. It's never the same for cybersecurity. For cybersecurity, if you really want to sell something, you need to create a story for that. And the more genuine, the more let's say true, the more simple the story is, I believe, the more convincing it is. But it's like really, really a kind of niche knowledge. You can't, on the other hand, you can't study it at university. Either you have the talent to do that, or you will not be able to start and you know, manage a booming business. And that leads us back to this workshop series or masterclass series. For this masterclass series, we are trying to bring some more significant ladies around here from Europe who already have their own, let's say, cybersecurity professional personalities, so that you could pose the same question to everyone if you participate in the whole series, and they will give you different answers, but somehow these all may be resembling to one another.
Okay. Yeah, it's extremely interesting. Thank you so much.
I'm glad that you came forward. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Anett. Are there any questions from the floor?
I also have another one.
Oh,
No one else is on the line. I do work with a lot of older men. So I'm almost one of the only women. I work in Berlin, and well, Berlin is still a very against gender city. So sometimes talking about gender is kind of like, don't talk about gender. So maybe that's the first aspect. I don't know how you feel about that in Europe. And then the second question is, how do you build trust with these men that are already 60 plus, that have worked in IBM, they have developed their own companies, they have this knowledge, and you start as a young woman and you want to, you know, change the cybersecurity in Europe and just bring you positive energy. Where, I don't know, it's extremely hard. So maybe you have some experience on building rapport with men that are clear with themselves, or should you network with women and do your own thing? I don't know. So maybe those two things would be interesting to hear from you.
Yes, one part of your question I couldn't get, but I'm imagining it, okay? Because I have my own story on this. When I used to take when I used to, let's say, have my NATO positions, in many situations, I was the only woman sitting in a huge NATO meeting room surrounded by, I would say, 50 plus, so more than 50 really senior military personnel, all men apart from me. And I was a civilian. I didn't have my rank, and I had to lead the meeting. Okay, so I was the chair, the regular chair of the whole meeting series.
Oh, wow.
And it lasted for years. And actually, I was the smallest. I'm really a small size. I'm petite. So when I was sitting in that's extremely hilarious. There are no photos of it because it was in a classified environment. But my legs couldn't reach the surface, the floor, because the whole furniture of the meeting room was simply too big for me. Okay, too big size. So it was a hilarious view, what I could show, like a tiny person, no military, absolutely civilian, young, speaking a couple of languages, and having this strange hair, and that's it. And they said, what is that woman doing here? So I had the question first, but then I believe my personality, let's say, went through. I cannot say it in a different way. Okay, so jokes apart, I think if you are firm and stable and you are able to put through your personal opinion, personal professional opinion through a very, very solid communication, then you are doing good. And then these men will actually understand that if they follow you, it's a benefit for them. So from a slightly different perspective, if you provide something that helps them, that is beneficial for them, they will very soon realize that it's worth communicating with you and cooperating with you. I hope Carolina can come back and we can continue this conversation. But it's really an issue anyway. I think female personality in these situations is actually advantageous. I know that these male experts, senior ones, senior at age and senior at experience, usually have the intelligence, let's say, to understand and to accept when a woman is able to deliver.
That's all yeah.
For that, you need to perform. I think
Okay.
I honestly think it's the question of the quality of your performance.
Okay, thank you.
Can I comment on this, actually?
Yeah, please.
Because it just raised a red flag in my mind. It's this idea of that women need to always double the effort to show that they're capable of, while men, they just waltz in a room and people would take them, will listen to them. But for us women, we just have to prove that we have the knowledge.
Yes, now yes. But perhaps in 50 years or in 100 years, it will be completely different. What we always forget, because I don't know why, perhaps because we want to forget about it, or because it's simply not that obvious, because not every one of us is a historian, is that cybersecurity has just started. Just think about the United States of America. When did they start? A couple of hundreds of years ago, right? And how was their let's say, everyday situation 150 years ago or 170 years ago. They had the golden rush, and they, you know, 2/3 of their continent wasn't even populated by them. And have a look at where they are now. So I believe we are at a stage of cybersecurity exactly in the same status of cybersecurity, the evolution, I mean, the evolution of cybersecurity, when we are still conquering the initial phases of cybersecurity in general. Digitalization and basically the birth of the internet and our digital world is just a couple of decades old. What are you expecting? We are the pioneers now. We have only one goal. If you take it on a longer term, or if you take it from a helicopter view, we are the primary pioneers of digitalization in general. What do you expect?
I hope a better future than the ups and downs that we are witnessing with the US politics.
You are idealistic because you are still young. I understand that.
No, actually, I'm more on the pessimistic side, but I always try to stay away from that side as well, just to see it a brighter way. I see in the chat, so my colleague Nina wrote from a report from Accenture.
Yeah, it just made me think of this recent report from Accenture called Jumping the Hurdles, which is about moving women into cybersecurity, top spots in cybersecurity. And it's really quite interesting. And they sort of surveyed a number of high-level women in cybersecurity. And one of the statements was the one I put in the chat, which I just thought was relevant to what we were just discussing, is that this well, misconception, almost you could say, but this idea that women always have to be exceptional and great and pushing the barriers, whereas men somehow have less expectations on them in terms of that. So I just thought it was interesting.
You know what? I don't think that is true. Can you name like 100 or let's say 200 great men in cybersecurity?
I don't know if I could. But then that makes the statement true. If I can't name great men, it's because they're average.
I didn't want to be that harsh. I think it's really so that's the core of the misconception, that we are struggling to come up with 100, 200, 50, 20, you know, greatest women in cybersecurity. I could turn it back, like, okay, it's here, it's us women formulating this. Let's turn it back. Let's turn towards men. Can we name all those men who support us in cybersecurity in general? Because we don't need to enter the cybersecurity industry because we are all in there already. That's why we are you know, participating in this workshop. That's why we are participating in running the initiative and so on and so forth. So we are here, okay? We are in cybersecurity. We have our own seats in cybersecurity, right? So can we name those men of whose work we can, or of whose activities we can benefit from? Can we do that?
Well, I mean, joking aside, because I was being a bit jokey earlier, but I mean, I think of course we can. Of course we can. I mean, I don't know. For my part, I have had just as many influential men as I have women in my career thus far. And probably the most influential is a man. So, I mean, I think the point is to not really have any bias one way or the other. That would be the main message, right? So it was completely just a joking fashion. I'm just using the lightheartedness of our master classes, and but I just thought it was an interesting statement.
Exactly, Nina. I wanted to, I wanted to reach the status that you are actually uttering this. I believe on the long term, the most ideal situation is gender neutrality, so that there couldn't be any differentiation made based on what gender you are or which gender you belong to. Who cares? No one should care about it. The only thing that should matter is basically what you deliver. If you deliver, it doesn't matter whether you are a man, a woman, or any kind of creature. Doesn't matter. What matters is whether you can help your community or not, whether your colleagues can benefit from your contribution or not.
I completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree.
And to be honest, throughout my own career, I had great support from men colleagues. I had enormous support. And I really like it and I do appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it just brings back to the fifth misconception that you listed, Anett, is that we cannot do it alone. Cybersecurity is a teamwork, and it is very vital to have the right role models as well to inspire us. And I'm just happy to see that Women for Cyber is indeed working in that direction. We are working hard to bring forward the many talents that we have in Europe, and whom we hope will inspire any junior professionals or university students towards a career in cybersecurity. And indeed, the main message we're trying to vehiculate, and as you did as well in your presentation, Anett, is that you do not need to have the technical skills to work in cybersecurity. It is such a broad field that it asks many other soft skills as well. So managerial, diplomatic, strategic, and Anett, you're really the representation of this through a career and experience. And you are also a role model for Women for Cyber, and we are very proud of that.
Yes, I hope. Thank you for that. I hope I can make a significant role model for that. But let me just jump on one of your previous thoughts that you mentioned, that actually there are some, and that also goes back to Nina, on gender neutrality and things like that. That perhaps it's not that obvious, but behind our initiative and the foundation running it, there are at least two very powerful men. When I say powerful, I really mean the European cybersecurity industry scene in general. There are actually two very powerful and significant senior men who back the initiative and also the foundation. So even from our initiative perspective, we work on the basis of inclusiveness, diversity, and gender neutrality. And when we have our internal advisory board meetings, no one has their own primary position solely due to whether they are men or women.
I agree. It is one of the main messages of Women for Cyber, is that if we want a gender inclusive, gender neutral cybersecurity field, we can only achieve it by working all together. Exactly. Men and women included. And yeah, indeed, sometimes we see him appear in the chats, though he had to leave for another meeting. But our own Secretary General Luigi Rebuffi is a great advocate of this, and he's also one of the brains behind this great initiative that we have here. All right, I think we are slowly coming to an end in this, unless there are any last questions from the floor. No? No one?
Yes, hello, Anett. Hi. Hi, Anett. I have a last question coming back to the misconceptions. I wanted to ask from the business perspective, if you can name a few misconceptions that SMIs can have that it can put at risk the organizations. So an organization can have a misconception about cybersecurity, and because of that misconception, they can risk their own security. Do you understand my question?
Yeah, I think I do, but I was a little bit hesitant whether to try to answer this, because there are so many professional misconceptions that
maybe we can leave it for another masterclass.
Yeah. I think it's actually a great topic to even to include it in the mentorship program.
I agree.
Because from professional perspective, there are so many misconceptions. One of them, actually, I can shortly summarize one, because that is true for security in general. Is that it's I don't know if there is anyone from the insurance industry participating in the masterclass. Perhaps not. But cybersecurity is from selling perspective, like how you can sell, how efficiently you can sell cybersecurity services, is very similar to how you can sell medical services, human-related medical services, and insurance, for example. To a usual cybersecurity service provider, the majority of their income, their yearly income, comes from the projects that were generated by some either technical issue that happened related to certain infrastructure, or a cybersecurity incident that generated some let's say after actions. Okay, so the thing that is missing from this whole let's say ecosystem is the sense and the positive approach towards prevention. So the majority of the industry relies on, from commercial perspective and from financial perspective, from the benefits of actually handling already happened problems, no matter whether those are technical issues or incident related issues. This way, companies do not have, so at least they understand the situation like that they don't have to spend on security, which is cyber in our case, in general, before any kind of flow could happen. They spend only after, like on a case-by-case basis. Though, on the other hand, if they spend on prevention, then on a long term, after like 3 or 5 years or something, even with counting or calculating with the constant change of or upgrade of technology, they could actually reduce the cost of handling incidents to approximately one tenth, so like 10%, really 10% of how much they need to spend on cybersecurity comparing to how much they spend now. But the point is that no one wants to invest into something of which, or in relation to which they relate, like, why should we spend on something that wouldn't even happen? Because as it didn't happen yesterday and it doesn't happen today, why would it happen tomorrow? But then things happen and they realize that, oops, it happened to them and it's really, really expensive. After this, they have this, accidental experience, let's say, incident experience, then they are willing to spend efforts and money on creating their own cybersecurity. But that's a completely different issue. I think it's worth a mentorship class.
I agree. Actually, it reminds me of a quote that I heard at a conference. Well, from the time that we were allowed to travel and attend actual conferences. I'm sorry, I don't remember who was the person saying it, but they said cybersecurity is the last priority of any management board until the day they get hacked. And then suddenly it goes to the top of the list. So I think on this, yes.
There's one more question, Nina.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Then this one last question then from Eva.
Actually, I do. So the question is, when we talk about research in cybersecurity, many of the institutes that work on it focus on the technical side. Really true, sadly. Although I believe that if they had people from non-STEM background, they could handle better some issues, managing and many others, as you mentioned. Do you believe that this is something that happens a lot, and what do you think that could be done so this situation could change? Right. I think what you are describing here is very strongly related to how research programs are funded. Research programs are funded based on certain KPIs, which have to be measurable. Measuring the efficiency of human interactions is something that you can hardly describe in numbers and figures. Therefore, research may be evaluated based on solely technical figures, or mostly solely technical figures, which is sad, but this is, I think, the consequence of our current economy and how it works, let's say the driving forces behind the economy. On the other hand, I also believe, at least based on my experience, and my experience comes from my daily job, which is basically strategic business development and very high level project management. There, interestingly, I have working relations with a lot of women. And it works, especially the more, it's quite interesting, not necessarily in my home country, so not in Hungary, but in any other international environment. By now, I have approximately, if I have to give figures, to every 2 men, I have 1 woman with whom I need to interact. And what I see now is that with the coming along of new initiatives like women in security, women in finance, women in cyber, women in tech, women in whatever that are related to the digital industry anyhow, there are actually much more women taking the lead than men. If we go through the current climate of initiatives, if we browse these, even if we visit those initiatives which are not solely related to cybersecurity, but have these as one deliverable, I could even mention GFCE or any other global initiatives. There are actually a lot of women collaborating to these on operational levels and also on C-level. So in the past 2 years, actually, I see a significant change undergoing or simply happening. So to sum it up, I think it happens a lot. Where I still feel the lack of involvement of enough women is basically the highest business relations. It's the area, let's say, or the platform, or the environment where the largest project-based decisions are made. There are not that many women involved as men. But interestingly, if you go in Asia, especially the Far East, apart from India, you would be surprised because there are much more women involved in such decisions than how many we have involved here in Europe. And that is true for the Middle East as well, which is even more surprising.
So change is happening, and this is the brightest highlights that we can use to wrap up this meeting. Anett, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to give your comments and exchanging with our community during this masterclass. To all participants, thank you for joining us today. If you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us through our email address, hello@womenforcyber.eu. We'll be happy to forward your questions to Anett and get back to you with her answers. And since this is the end of the year, I would really take 10 seconds to thank my colleagues, Nina Olesen and Saskia Brugman. We have done, I feel, a great job this year. It has been an intense year, not easy all the time, but we managed to stay cohesive, and we really did some great job here, and I'm really looking forward to continue working with you next year and for the many great initiatives that Women for Cyber is cooking up for our community. All right, and on this note, well, my name is Nina Hasratian. I thank you all very much for attending and see you all at the next masterclass in January. We'll get back to you with more details on this later. So make sure to follow our social media. And I wish you all a great holiday season, a restful one, hopefully, as well.
Thank you, Nina. And thank you, Anett, for your time today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
It was actually my pleasure. And I'm really honestly honored to be part of this initiative. I hope I will serve it properly in the coming future.
Thank you, Anett. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you so much. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Take care. Happy Christmas.